Hey everyone, it's Touchmania, and today we're talking about the things that annoy everybody else on VATSIM. I love flying on VATSIM. It's a lot of fun to have other people flying, controlling, and during events, it's just great. But inevitably, there are just some things that really get under people's skins more so than other things. Some are against the rules, as in they're written rules, and some of these are simply things that are poor etiquette. So today I've got 8 or so things that I think just annoy everybody on VATSIM. So here is your notice not to do any of these. First on my list is hot miking. Hot miking is when you probably inadvertently keep your mic on and transmit, although you're not intending to transmit. In most cases, this is an accident, although, once we all understand, but when people do it for a while, it can be really annoying. Now, the issue is not so much, again, that you keep it on for a couple extra seconds, but sometimes people don't realize that it's on. And in most cases, you just get that background noise. Sometimes you get people talking to themselves. Sometimes you get people talking to other people in the room. And it can be some embarrassing conversations, but it's annoying because it just stops the entire frequency together. Because the way that VATSIM works is generally whoever's broadcasting has the floor, if you will. And so if someone's hot micing and they have just the mic on, whether they're broadcasting or not, it's getting in the way of other people making transmissions. So obviously, it's annoying. We all make mistakes. I've been guilty of doing this inadvertently.
Thanks, and JetBlue 99, just let your viewers know that we like short hops around New York, too.
Sorry about that. I'm so embarrassed.
I love VATSIM.
Now I'm paranoid. I didn't push the button. Like, I have a button on my joystick, and I was doing other things. A couple times, but I don't think I've ever done it for quite a long duration. Anyway, it can be annoying to other people. So you always want to make double sure that you're not hot miking. And if someone is hot miking, the best thing you can do is, number one, don't try to talk on top of them. They can't hear that. Instead, maybe a message over Unicom. Or, of course, if you're in air traffic controlled space, it's up to the air traffic controller to deal with this. So don't feel like you need to take care of it. Number 2 is stepping on someone else. I think this is the most annoying thing to me personally. And that is essentially when 2 or more people are trying to talk at the same time on frequency. Now, again, in a lot of cases, this is just an oopsie, right? 2 people at the same time don't hear anybody transmitting, so they try to transmit at the same time and they step on top of each other, and then basically no one can hear what either of them said. In most cases, this is an oopsie. But again, during events, this is when it becomes more critical to really pay attention. And this comes down to etiquette. I know we all want to get our calls in and get our clearance or directions or whatnot. But when we step on top of each other, it just stops everything because the controller is going to need to ask both people to transmit, take time. And this is a case of listening first and then transmitting. I know we want to get the transmission out there, but at the same time, it's important to give it a couple seconds. My advice is always count to 3 Mississippi. And if no one's talking, then make your call out and see what happens. But the problem is when people try to get on top of each other and they try to kind of, sneak it in, if you will. And that's when you get more and more of people stepping on each other, and it tends to snowball quite quickly, and it really annoys controllers, and it annoys pilots even more because it just slows everything down. So try to take some time with it and wait for your opportunity. Number 3, text message conversation. So the most common scenario in which this occurs is you're on Unicom, and you're not hot miking, you're not stepping on somebody, but you can send text messages via your VATSIM client, X-Pilot, V-Pilot, whatnot. Inevitably, most people are pretty cool about this, but sometimes you get people who really get into a conversation, which is what it's not meant to do. Unicom, or even on frequency in general, is really meant for basic conversations with other pilots to, alert anybody, hey, I'm in the area, and coordinate on your own. It is not a private message. It's not a chat room. And if you want to send private messages, you can do that, actually. You just message the person. But having a conversation, as in, hey, how's it going? Inane conversation over Unicom via text is not the way to do it. Similarly, you should not do this over audio either. But if you want to talk to somebody and you need to coordinate, maybe it's just a friend, you want to, catch up with them, then one option you have is you could send them a private message in the client. Usually it's .msg, their call sign, and then you can send them a message there. Some people will also find a unused frequency and talk over comms there. You could join their Discord, but the bottom line is don't do it over text message. Just annoys everybody else because everybody else on frequency within range gets those messages in the Unicom chat, and you'd be surprised how far you could be from them and still get those messages, so it's pretty annoying. Number 4 on my list, not listening to controller instructions. This is not only against the rules, but also just poor etiquette, and that is people who aren't listening intently. If you don't understand the instructions, that's okay. Ask the controller what's going on, but don't ignore the controller. Don't assume. If you're not 100% sure, ask the controller because it causes problems, and nothing frustrates controllers more than pilots who don't listen to their instructions. There's a lot of reasons why this could happen. none of which are valid excuses in my opinion. But the bottom line is, if there's any issue, if you're not sure about something, ask the controller. But flat out ignoring the controller or just not listening to what you're supposed to be doing is not cool. It's your responsibility as a pilot to do what you're supposed to be doing. So listen to controllers. Next up is not announcing intentions on Unicom when there's other people around. Now, listen, the rules about Unicom are pretty easy, and they're kind of vague in some ways, but also specific in the sense that, if you're on your own, if you're not impacting anybody else, you don't have to make Unicom callouts. That's not up to you. But if you're around and you're maybe landing or taking off and you notice there are planes in the area, this is a good idea, especially when you're in Unicom, to maybe check VATSPY or VATtastic or SimAware or one of these other places and, see other people around you. Or heck, just go out to the camera view on the outside of your plane and spin around. Do you see anybody coming in or out? Make a call out to let people know that you're doing stuff like not necessarily maybe pushing back, but, taking off, landing, 10-mile final, 5-mile final, things like that. Again, when there's other traffic in the area. This is out of respect to your other pilots that, you don't want to crash into each other or cause issues for each other or cause a deviation or whatnot. So, if you're in the area and there's other planes nearby, it's a good idea just to make a quick, hey, JetBlue, blah, 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 taking off, runway 25 left, and name the city that you're taking off from. It takes about 2 seconds to do it, but it just saves everybody a little bit of anxiety, and it just makes it a little bit easier, and it's a better experience overall. So that's next on my list. Also, squawking in poor taste. This is against the rules of VATSIM, but there are definitely some squawk codes you absolutely cannot do. And not only is it against the rules, it's just not funny, it's not amusing, not anything, whatever you think it is, you shouldn't be doing it. I'm, of course, talking about squawk code 7500, which is a transponder code for indicator hijacking. Similarly, you should not be using call signs from notorious real-world aviation incidents that are in a negative light, so don't be that guy. Also, taxiing through other people. This is, I think, against the rules. I'm not 100% sure on this. Let me know in the comments if this is against the rules or not, but don't taxi through other people. Sometimes people have collision in their sim, and it can cause a problem for them, but it's also just not cool. Get around them. If you can't, find another taxiway. Obviously, if the air traffic controller tells you to do that, that's fine. But I'm really talking about, I think, more so in a Unicom scenario in which you're trying to get to the taxiway or to the gate or to the runway, whatever, and you taxi through somebody. Somebody stopped in front of you or taxiing very slowly. Go around them, find another path. Don't taxi through them. It's not cool. No matter how slow they're going, no matter where they've stopped, just don't do that. And the last thing that I've got here on things that annoy everyone else on VATSIM, that is what I'm calling here telling stories on frequency. Now, I'm a very friendly guy on frequency. It's nice, especially when you find a controller or another pilot that you know, and I don't think there's any problem, in my opinion, of saying hello or how's it going. That's fine. But what you want to avoid are stories. And what I mean by stories are excessive communication on frequency.
One trick is to tell them stories that don't go anywhere. Like the time I caught the ferry over to Shelbyville. I needed a new heel for my shoe. So I decided to go to Morganville, which is what they call Shelbyville in those days. So I tied an onion to my belt, which was the style at the time.
As in giving a pirate, but really going into insane amount of detail. Perhaps talking to a controller and telling when they say, how's it going, which is not really meant to indicate how you're doing, or just like, hey, hello, it's good to see you kind of thing, going into a long explanation about how your day is, what you've been doing all day. It's not the place for it. Don't do that. So there you go. Those are the top things that annoy everybody else on VATSIM. Let me know in the comments below which things do you agree with. Is there anything on this list that should have been on this list that isn't on the list? I think that makes sense. Let me know in the comments below. Also, like this video, subscribe to our channel. It really helps us out quite a bit. We need to get to 1,000 followers, so that way we can do all sorts of fun things here on our YouTube channel. Until next time, this has been Hotchmania, and we'll talk again real soon.